Hi, this is Gwen Peterson. I am a certified health coach with Optavia, and I decided to do a video with my friend and fellow health coach, Aubrey, because if you follow my channel, you know that I am very, very focused on the healthy mind part of getting healthy long term, and that the food is just a tool to get healthy. But if we don't fix the healthy mind, that it's just going to be a really great diet that you had success on for a while until you didn't. And as I've thought about my YouTube channel and how I can help serve others that may or not be my clients, but people out there looking for a resource, whether it's that they're doing our program or they're doing it without a coach or they're just trying to be healthy, I thought that this might be a really good thing to add to my channel. So I know Aubrey through her mom, and I've known Aubrey through the good times and the bad. And so Aubrey is a little different than the normal client or coach that I work with, because I'm normally working with people that have food addiction. And as we know, if you have weight to lose and the Twinkies have a voice and they're calling your name, you have a food addiction at some level. We all do. And so we talk a lot about triggers and how to work through those, but Aubrey has had the flip addiction of having drugs and things like that as her addictive problem in her past. And so now Aubrey is clean and sober. She is a health coach. She's getting healthy. She's getting other people healthy. And because of Aubrey's exciting opportunities to be in rehabs and things like that, and you know that I talk a lot about our health and wellness journey being very similar to AA, I thought I wanted to bring Aubrey on because she kind of has that next layer of when you feel that trigger, how to work through it, or at least what has worked for her. So Aubrey, would you tell us a little bit about your past to let anybody watching this kind of know where you've come from, to know where you are and how successful that is for you?
Yeah. There's such a bad echo. Is there an echo on your side?
No, it's on my end. It's okay.
Oh no. Okay. So I came from a place where I had split parents. I had addiction on my dad's side, and then I had my mom is the most amazing woman I've ever met. So it was two very different dynamics, and I felt like I had so much emotion inside that I didn't know how to handle it. And it ended up with me being addicted to, it didn't matter what it was, it didn't matter. And it was mainly opiates, but it didn't matter. And, it took me going through a men addiction, through, sex addiction, through, to the drug addiction, of course, alcoholism, everything. It led me to I was on the streets, and I was homeless for many years. I went in and out of homes and couches and gutters, and literally sleeping downtown Salt Lake, literally next to a gutter. And when I finally decided to get sober, the only reason why I did was because my husband, we're not married. Well, we are married, but we're not together right now. But I kept overdosing, and so he took me up to Oregon, and we ended up, I ended up getting sober. Right after I got sober, we got up there, I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter that's now 5 months old. And so it has been a really crazy ride. And after I did get sober, I definitely, being pregnant, I switched right from drugs straight to food. So it wasn't anything different. It was just a switch addiction. And so I've struggled on both sides. And it's been interesting. It's been, I've had to learn to teach myself, self-control, I think, is the biggest deal. My grandpa used to teach me that when I was little. He'd hold my foot and he'd go to tickle me, and he'd say, self-control, self-control. And I think that if I would have just grasped the concept back then, I think that we would have been okay. But I didn't. And I had so much emotion inside that I didn't want I didn't know how to deal with things. So I would just mask, and I would chef, like I'm talking like loaves of bread in my mouth, just like piece after piece after piece, slather butter on, like it was gross. It was disgusting. And I feel for people who still struggle with that, because I get it. And it's like, you don't even know that there's something going on inside you that is just like, it's an addiction. You're trying to cover up whatever's inside of you by grabbing that food or, you know, that drug or that bottle or whatever it is, so that you don't have to deal with what is going on inside of you. So I think that that's kind of my story. I mean, right now, it's been really interesting. Now that I have 14 months sober, I've definitely, and I've been on the program since, I started February 6th is the day that I started. And it has been the most amazing transformation, like journey for not only my body, but for my mind. To be able to know that I can eat every 2 to 3 hours and I'm not going to die and that portions are okay. And it's been really interesting, Glenn. It really has been. It's been amazing. It's helped all aspects of my life.
Well, and it's amazing to me, because for those of you guys watching, you wouldn't know, but her mom is my coach. And so I have watched Aubrey through the thick and thin of all of this. Jan calling me, telling me that she had overdosed, and you can have the best home life, but when there's something eating at your core, you go to whatever that addiction is. And the unfortunate part about a food addiction is there's not external shame with it, where when you're doing any type of a drug, you know it's illegal, you know that you could die, and we know that if we eat one more Twinkie, most likely we're not going to have a heart attack. And it's acceptable to go to a dessert bar at the buffet and grab 20 desserts, and there's no shame externally to that. And so that's why I feel like sometimes people end up having the food addictions that are not as public, because people don't shame it the way they do somebody having an overdose or things like that. So tell me, sorry, I just had somebody come to the door. So tell me, with you, when you, I know that there's no way that you don't have triggers still happening for you on a constant basis. Right. While you have this beautiful baby, we know people that relapse on drugs with children all the time. So tell me what you learned in rehab that is helping you when you have those moments of weakness to not give into that trigger.
I think that playing the tape forward, I think, is the biggest thing for me. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but God is, I use the word God, higher power, is a big aspect of my life. And I know that I didn't grasp the concept of God. I had an experience with an overdose that helped me a lot, whereas as I knew that God was there. But as far as incorporating that into my life and letting that help me in my decisions to, you know, with my addiction, and with also being a mother, and I think that playing the tape forward and hitting my knees, I think, are the number 2 things that I use on a daily basis. If I'm feeling emotional, and with this separation from my husband, it's been really rough. The past couple months have been really rough, and it's been like. It's been interesting, because every time I haven't ever wanted to eat outside of the program. It's just, I've just wanted to indulge myself in things that I can eat that I know are healthy for me. I've just wanted to, you know, grab an extra bar or make just that extra, egg whites or whatever it is that I do, or a turkey burger or whatever. I've just wanted to indulge in that. And I always have to think, okay, do I want to have to be doing this program? Do I want to wake up tomorrow and do I want to feel worse? Or do I want to wake up tomorrow and do I want to feel better? And when I started the program, I just celebrated a year of sobriety. And so I knew how it felt to accomplish a goal, which is really new for me. I didn't never know what it was like to set a goal and actually accomplish it. So for me to be able to hit a year sober, I was like, okay, I can do this. I know I can do this. I was 175 pounds, and I was so unhealthy during my pregnancy. All I ate was like the worst of the worst. Let's just say that. And just such high sugar, and it was a lot of carbs was my diet. And so learning what was healthy for me, I kind of wanted to just indulge in that. And I think that, I'm sorry, I got somebody playing the piano upstairs.
That's okay. I can't hear it. And I have people talking outside. So we're both doing awesome. Okay. People will love that the playback of these things are real life. That's how this goes.
Well, I just think that it's been an amazing, incredible journey. But through getting a year of sober, it has taught me self-control for one, and it has taught me to pray and to actually let, when I'm feeling that trigger and I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I mean, triggers for drugs and alcohol, like by the grace of God, they're not there anymore. I don't get like a physical response when I see alcohol or hear of drugs or something like I used to first in my early recovery. I don't get that anymore. And I don't have the obsession of the mind anymore. But as far as food go, man, I have days where I'm just like, can I just have another cup of almond milk? Even though it's not even that bad, like it's just a cup of almond milk. But every time I feel like that, I know that there is something inside of me, whether it be with my oldest daughter and what's going on there with, I'm not able to see her right now, which has been it's been very humbling. I've had to really, I don't even know where to go with that, but it's been really emotional, because I love her so much and I'm trying my hardest to be the mom that she deserves. But it reminds me every day of what I don't want. And I know that if I'm wanting to eat and eat and eat and eat, that something inside of me I either need to go to a meeting, I need to talk to somebody, or I need to reach out, because I know that whatever's going on inside of me isn't in alignment with how it needs to be. So I either hit the ground on my knees and pray, or I talk to my, my higher power all day long. I'm like in constant contact all day long, because that's how it has to be for me in my recovery from both food addiction and drugs and alcohol. So it's all the same to me.
Well, and I love what you're saying, that I don't think most people realize that when they get in our program and they start getting healthy, if they don't fix their brain, it will shift to something else. Mm-hmm. And it's super easy to shift to shopping, because now you're losing weight, you can buy clothes, and it just becomes this, it just is a shift to a different addiction unless you change the brain. And I think I mentioned to you this earlier, but I've said to people that are really struggling on plan, I'm like, when you're struggling with alcohol or drugs and you start to go to AA, you go to a meeting every single day for as long as it takes, right? There's no timeline attached to it. So to me, step one on our program is listening to a podcast every day, because when you're in the middle of that trigger, you have to do something to stop it. And if you flip on a podcast, your brain has to focus on the podcast instead of that dialogue in your head to just shift the environment. What would you say about that when you felt in the past when you were trying to stay clean and you would get that trigger? What kind of a shift would you have to make so that you didn't allow your brain to keep that trigger going?
Honestly, I had to completely change my surroundings and my thought process. I had to just switch it up, because I knew that if I would stay, so I'm going to just share a little bit about what was going on. So my husband, the reason why we're not together, we're separated, but the difference is, it's a very good example is he would, when there would be a trigger, instead of me going the higher power route and asking for help, or, I would go to seek a higher power to help me with that, he would sit and he would obsess over the trigger, and he ended up relapsing, and now we're not together. He's been strung out, he's back in rehab. So he would just, if he didn't switch his thought process, it didn't change. And with me, I had to change my surroundings, what I was talking about, what I was listening to, you know, anything that reminded me of whatever it was. And, you know, and it was a slow process for him, but it ended up, I mean, we have a 5-month-old daughter. He hasn't even been there since she was like a month old. So, and he's a great man. He's a wonderful man. I love him. We're not good together. And it's sad because I tried to explain it, but unless you're willing to actually like to do those steps and change your thought process and get outside of what you're dealing with. Like if you're wanting to eat that whole loaf of bread, you need either get on a bike or go for a walk. Even if you're in the early steps of the program, you got to get outside and do something to switch your thought process. Don't just sit in front of the TV, and don't just, you know, hang out in the kitchen and, you know, try and stay away from the bread, because it's not going to happen. You're going to end up eating the whole stinking loaf. It's just how it goes, you know. Right. So you got to get out the kitchen if you don't want to get burned, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of that.
I try to explain to my clients, which you would agree with the same thing with whatever drug was your choice at the time. When I personally am really focused on my blood sugar being balanced, staying healthy and feeling good, I know I can't go to a Mexican restaurant, because I literally will sit there with that bowl of chips, and that whole time I'm like, I'm not going to eat chips. I'm not going to eat chips. And I literally cannot focus on what people are saying, because it is such a trigger for me. And the same thing with going to the movies. That popcorn, I can't even focus on the movies because that popcorn is there. And it's no different than that alcoholic going to a bar. An alcoholic should never walk into a bar. And if you don't know that, you can't go there. And some people will say to me, well, Gwen, does that mean you can never go to a Mexican restaurant or to the movies? I'm like, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. But until I work on this part in that subject, I have no business going into those places when I know that I will be triggering.
Yeah, they talk about the obsession of the mind a lot in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's so true. It's the same with food. It's the same with food. If you have a food addiction and something's not right in, you know, in this, you know, either way, if something's not right there and you are needing something to fix how you're feeling, you're going to obsess over that until you either, if you obsess, most, you know, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you end up doing it. If you just sit and obsess over it, because you can't help it. It's an addictive, it's an addiction, you know, so you'll obsess. If I let myself sit and obsess on, you know, going and using downtown Salt Lake, whatever I used to do, you know, over time, I mean, it might take, you know, a year, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. But if I let myself just sit and stir on that, chances are, very good chances, is I'm going to end up back down there and lose everything I've had to get, I mean, you know, lose it all a second time. And I'm not willing to go through that. I mean, I've already lost everything a million times over, but as far as my little girl and everything that's important to me, my family, my respect, you know, everything that I've earned back for myself, you know,
it's the same thing with weight loss, because, you know, think about how many times you've relapsed so many times. We've gained and lost the same weight so many times that people don't believe us anymore that we're going to stay healthy and be, you know, and we all know when we put that weight back on, we feel miserable physically, we feel miserable emotionally, we feel like a failure. All of that same emotional dialogue is no different than what you have gone through when you've relapsed. So it sounds like you kind of have a couple of really good tools there. And if you think about it, it's no different than Dr. A's stop, challenge, choose. Because if you don't stop that cyclical dialogue of I'm not going to do it, you do it. And so if you don't stop that thought process and then challenge what that thought process is, you'll never choose the right choice, you know? And so I love that. Say that again. You said you think about the future, or you fast forward?
I always play the tape ahead. So with everything I do, it's like do I really want to eat that? Because if I eat that, it's gonna throw me off, you know, the program, and I'm not gonna even. Tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be 2 pounds heavier, and then I'm gonna have to lose that 2 pounds, and then it's gonna put me back like a week and a half. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
one little decision right now in the program where I'm at right now would mean a lot to me, because it incorporates my choices in life with my addiction as well. You know, so
Right.
like, if I can't control, not, and it's not really, it is control, but it's more like, if I can't have self-control enough with my food choices, I'm not going to be able to do it in the big scheme of things either, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
it's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to me.
That's awesome.
So,
I think
yeah.
that I've never heard that before. Play the tape forward, but I think you're exactly right. When we give into that trigger, we're thinking about the moment. We're not
Mhm.
thinking about how we're going to feel the next morning, how angry we're going to be at ourselves, how
Mhm.
maybe frustrated our family will be that we're again starting our health over, you know. And so I think that play the tape forward is a really powerful thing that I've never heard. I love that.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helped me so much in my life. And especially, you know, I don't know what was wrong with my brain, Gwen. I really don't, because I think it was just maturity. You know, if I were able to get sober earlier, I think I definitely would have. I don't think I'd put myself through what I did, and everybody around me, of course, but with the maturity, I think that I've been able to actually have the self-control to actually do the things, set the goals and reach the goals that I want to. So it's not, I mean, if I if I can do it, I mean, I have come from some pretty dark places, and if I can do it, anybody can do it, and that's all I know.
Right. Well, and I love that you're talking about the goals, because the workbook, the Living a Longer, Healthier Life workbook, starts out with the goals. So I think that what you're saying is spot on. It just gives
Yeah.
a little extra layer, because your experience was a different type of addiction, but then
Right.
it turned to the food addiction that we
Mhm.
all are dealing with on in Optavia, and
Yeah.
then you just move forward and you choose what you want for
Mhm.
the future. So
Mhm.
I think that's really, really good. And the thing that I find too, and you know, I'm going to put in the comments of this video your contact information,
Okay.
because I think that there are people that you have a deeper level of addiction where you had to climb out of it differently than maybe me, where it has just been Diet Coke addiction. You know what I'm saying?
It's just as bad. I get
You
it.
know that, you know, but the thing that I think that I would say, if somebody is thinking that they should reach out to you, is that the thing to remember is, us as health coaches, or you going through AA and all of that, we are health coaches. We are not
Mhm.
therapists. And if that somebody is suffering at this deep of a level with addiction, it normally needs to go to that next level of a therapist or AA or rehab or things like that, because we only can do so much with what we have, and we
Yeah.
are guides nutritionally, and you know, we have these tools that we can give people, but sometimes those addictions are so deep that we as health coaches are not equipped, and they get to go to that next level. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I I would love if people if they're struggling with, I mean, that are in recovery and they're struggling with health, like a food addiction, I relate so much. And I don't I would like for them to kind of have a peace of mind, peace of heart. As I don't even know. I just don't I don't want anybody to suffer like I have.
Right.
It's not, it's horrible and it's miserable.
Hmm.
And indulging yourself in a loaf of bread is so not it's not what you think it is, you know?
At least it could be brownies, right? No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, well, good. Well, I'll put your info on there, and I just thought that you would be such a great person to bring on, because this is different than what I post on my channel normally, but I know the subject and content is identical. It's just a different vice. And
Mhm.
like I say, some people have to go all the way to rehab. Some people AA just works, which, like some people with us on our program, doing the podcast, doing the workbook, getting immersed in our community, that is enough for a lot of people. But for some people, they get to take it to the next level if that is not enough, because the health coach is definitely not going to be enough because we just aren't equipped, you know? So, so good. I think that you've given us some really good ideas, and I thank you for being willing to share your story, because I know what you've been through has been dark and painful, and I'm just so proud of you that you have risen above, because for me, I got to watch this and saw the pain, and I as a health coach, as a friend, there's nothing that you can do when somebody's in that addiction. And I know on the flip side, there's nothing that my husband can do when I am in that plate of brownies. It's all the same thing. But for me, I wasn't living on the streets for my brownies. And so I just have to say, for me, I'm so proud of you that you not only have figured this out, but you are also paying it forward, because we know that that's why I say I wish so many of my clients would become coaches, because we know that that next step of paying it forward and supporting somebody else with their health really holds your feet to the fire as a person who is dealing with the food addiction. And so, you know, I just want to tell you thank you, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, and I hope that what you've said touches somebody that's watching this, because I have had this feeling of putting you on my channel for a couple of weeks now, and I'm just glad that we were able to coordinate our schedules. So please, if you've watched this video in its entirety, please comment below and just tell us what you learned from Aubrey or me through this video. And thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Aubrey. Bye, guys.